But the higher-ups in the very top crust, only 6,000 of them, according to the Kissinger Group. I was offered entry into it. 6,000 that will be given life extension. 6,000 that will ascend to the Godhead. When I was offered that by Rothkopf, I mentioned that because he didn't do it in confidence. He did it in front of John Harmon. But I've been offered it other times. They're like, Alex, the public is profane. They will fall. They will destroy you. I know what we're doing looks ugly on the surface, but it's an emergency surgery. The earth is infested. We have to do it now. No, the fact that you can see it means you're one of us. You should really join. And they say, it's very sad you're not joining. It's been almost 10 years. Rothkopf was one of the last, about 9 years ago. I haven't been offered to sell out in a long time because they know I'm already sold out to somebody else. A lot of the wars, I mean, a lot of the stuff happening in the Middle East is because of the Israeli lobby, one of the most powerful in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, leftist infiltration and Islamic infiltration into this country and into our media is so massive it makes my head spin. And they brag about this. You know, it's called a conspiracy theory here in the U.S., but they've bought off a lot of the preachers to go spout this stuff. That's public. They have bragged, Ariel Sharon bragged that he owned our Congress. They have bragged, and then Haaretz and Jerusalem Post will jump up and down and say that the U.S. has got to do more to attack Iran and go into these other countries. Because the sickening globalists and George Soros are allied with radical Islam and are taking over 23 countries as we speak, taking them over. You know, folks always think that, well, they blew up the World Trade Centers to get the $7 billion in insurance money, or they did it to get the oil, or they did it to be able to invade the Middle East, or they did it for weapon sales, or they did it for opium, or they did it for Israel. It's all those reasons. You get into bombs in Tower 1 and 2, in 7, absolutely. We don't know who did it. The public can't handle the full truth of 9/11 because it's not all sussed out and we don't know all the exact details. But we know there was a stand down. We know Saudi Arabia ran it. But you are vindicated. This has got to be the 50th time the last 6 months on the radical Muslims celebrating, not just in New Jersey, but New York, Palestine, all over. What do you have to say? They're still attacking you, though we've got Dan Rather on video. We've got New York Post. We've got Washington Post. We've got, I mean, what's going on here?
Well, I took a lot of heat, and I was very strong on it, and I held my line, and then all of a sudden, you know, hundreds of people were calling up my office. I was the other day in Sarasota, Florida, and people are online, and we had 12,000 people, which is fantastic. And the people were saying, many of the people from New Jersey, 4 or 5 people said, Mr. Trump, I saw it myself. I was there. They talked about Patterson, but they said, I saw it myself, Mr. Trump. I was there. So many people have called in, and on Twitter, @RealDonaldTrump, they're all tweeting. So I knew it happened, and I held my line, and people wanted me to apologize, and we can't do that. People like you and I can't do that so easily. Now, we can do it if we're wrong, Alex. You apologize. I'd apologize if I was wrong. But they were celebrating, and they were celebrating the fall of the World Trade Center. I think that's disgraceful.
It is. Again, you're in trouble for saying the sky is blue.
Well, I was right about that. I was right in saying in a book that I wrote, you covered it really nicely. I appreciate it. But I wrote a very political book years ago in the year 2000, The America We Deserve. And I said in that book that we better be careful with this guy named Osama bin Laden. I mean, I really study this stuff. I really find it very interesting. And even though I'm a businessman, I always have been involved in politics. I said, we better be careful with Osama bin Laden. There's a guy named Osama bin Laden. Nobody really knew who he was, but he was nasty. He was saying really nasty things about our country and what he wants to do to it. And I wrote in the book, 2000, 2 years before the World Trade Center came down, I talked about Osama bin Laden. You better take him out. I said, he's going to crawl under a rock. You better take him out. And now people are seeing that. They're saying, you know, Trump predicted Osama bin Laden, which actually is true. And then 2 years later, a year and a half later, he knocked down the World Trade Center. I said a lot of things that turned out to be true, 100% true. And I'm giving credit. I'm given credit by some people. Some people refuse to acknowledge it. You know, they refuse to say.
No, you've been absolutely on target.
So the New World Order doesn't do something unless, in the cost-benefit analysis, it helps all of their major operations. And Israel's very corrupt, does a lot of horrible things. They're very oppressive to their own people.
So there's no going back. There's no discussion of this. We all know the truth now. And you either choose the side of liberty and freedom or you choose the side of the New World Order, allied with the stinking, filthy, third world, woman-raping, ass-wiping with their... excuse, I'm going to have to go off air, okay?
But I do think it's always important to point out that in major polls, over half of the people that live in Israel are against what their government's doing and are upset about it.
And you have to understand the average Muslim is a victim of the cult they're in, the Wahhabist cult they're in. The average Muslim is a sad person. I would rather be free.
But then they're beaten back into submission by terror attacks that are stimulated by policies that are oppressive, but also a lot of that is staged. That is, the terror groups are funded. The guy on the ground launching a rocket or blowing himself up doesn't even know it, but it has even come out in Israeli papers that the Israeli state, Shin Bet, mainly their internal security apparatus, has been, quote, creating fake al-Qaeda groups. Quote, right-wing settlers have been caught planting bombs, detonating them.
I think it is an Islamic takeover, a satanic Islamic takeover. But if you study the way Islam has been deployed in modern times, it is a satanic religion. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. I'll just say it here and be a major target. I don't care. I'm already a target of the New World Order. It is a satanic movement. It is devil worship, basically.
You know, I get criticized by folks for my questioning of Israel.
It's time to pray. Our Heavenly Father, please help us open our eyes. Please help us be good. We're so sorry for all the abortions and all the evil in our name. Please protect the children. Please reprieve us if it's in your will. Please somehow stop the evil forces that are trying to stop this miracle that you've given us. Please help there be peace in the Middle East. Please stop those who are trying to overthrow Israel.
Is it anti-Semitic to talk about how the Israeli government from 51 to 61 radiated 110,000 Jewish children? Most of them died. Because any criticism of Israel is called anti-Semitism. So murdering Jews is now good, and being against it is anti-Semitic. I'm not kidding about this.
And I have seen the real mental illness out there where Arabist brainwashing and other things in the media have really even gotten a lot of the conservative movement to obsess on Israel and become anti-Semitic. And it's just stupid. It's a distraction. It's mindless. It has nothing to do with reality.
I first learned about 4 years ago because it was on national Israeli TV, their biggest channel, called the Ringworm Children. And they would tell the children, poor Sephardic Jews that are about 20% of Israel, a little bit more at the time, they would tell them that you're going to get a dental appointment and you're going to get checked for the fungus ringworm and you're going to have some x-rays done. And our government funded $3 billion to radiate these children. And in some of the tests, they die on the gurney. Some of the tests, they die a week later, some 2 years later. But the majority did die from the radiation because they hit them with different dosages.
Of exactly what we were facing. And it's abominable. It is absolutely blasphemous. And you can see it. It's the fall of Russia, the fall of Europe, the fall of Canada, the fall of the U.S., the fall of Australia, the fall of the Mediterranean nations, the fall of basically Southeast Asia to Islam.
Israel has such evil people. At that time, labor Zionist, and I've interviewed Jews from Israel on this subject who've been involved in the filmmaking, writers for major publications, and they will talk about how their government is so controlled by a group above them that that the biggest carnage we've seen.
They are putting the very worst, bloodthirsty, creepy weirdo dudes in white pajamas that have sex slaves in control with trillions of dollars. And I will be, you know what? I will go to hell before I sit here and I watch this country and the world turned over to these savages. I'm done, I'm pissed, and I'm not putting up with it anymore.
But the Middle Eastern derivation, or folks that have more of the what you'd call original Semitic, because the Arabs are Semitic too. It's kind of an oxymoron. Well, it's not an oxymoron. It's wrong to say that the Arabs are anti-Semitic, because they're Semitic, folks. They're as Semitic as you can get.
I'm calling for all Muslim symbols to be removed. And I'm calling for all mosques in the United States to be shut down. And I'm calling for all self-identifying Muslims of any type to be deported to their original country of origin, even if they've been here 200 years. I want all Muslims deported now. And I want all Muslims to have their mosques shut down and their minarets removed and their symbols removed, and anyone wearing a crescent moon around their neck, I want them arrested.
It's so this is incredible. And so every time I talk about what was in Herat's, Jerusalem Post, and on national Israeli TV, I'm against murdering Jewish children, or any other children for that matter. I get hateful emails saying, you piece of trash, how dare you attack Israel, you're just an anti-Semite.
Obama wouldn't have moved against Israel last week if he didn't have operatives in the Israeli government who at least believe they're going to be able to stop Netanyahu and Trump. And that's what I'm saying. Listen to me so carefully. This is the big enchilada. They're currently moving against Trump and Israel.
I found out that the Zionists funded Hitler and made a deal with Hitler not to let Jews out of Germany that wouldn't go to the Middle East, that wouldn't go to Israel, then Palestine. I used to hear that like 10 years ago. Oh, that's ridiculous. Then big liberal Jewish scholars at major university professors, I've interviewed them, and there's whole books written on it. They got the actual publications. How the labor Zionist, there's the head labor Zionist saying 1 cow in Palestine's worth more than all the Jews who refuse to come to Israel in Germany. And they said Hitler will persecute Jews, and that will force a worldwide drive to Israel.
Your culture's dead. It's bad if you're a German. It's bad if you're Swede. You will wear the hijab. You will take a Muslim man. Your time is over. If they crap in the pool when you're there with your kids, you worship it. You submit to it. You are cuckolded. You are broken. You are fallen. Submit.
Then I learned that Israel would bomb Jewish synagogues in Turkey, Jewish synagogues in Iraq, synagogues, obviously they're Jewish, they're synagogues, in Spain in the 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, this is mainstream news. This is admitted. Somebody ought to make a film about this. They've written books on it, and mainly it's Jewish writers who were just totally freaked out by this because they're anti-Semitic. They don't, because they're evil. They don't like murdering Jewish children. They don't like funding Hitler, so they're bad.
You are the most degenerate, twisted, mentally ill people I've ever seen, wanting to gang rape this republic and this country and the West that has been the literal cornerstone, the absolute jewel in the crown of free Western Renaissance societies and the very best literature, music, technology, science, medicine, culture the world's ever seen. You Satanists want to sacrifice the West. You want to kill the beautiful goddess that is the West. You people are enemies, and we're going to get your asses, and we know what you're up to, and we're coming for you.
You see, it's like Arnold is loved by the ADL and given awards because he handed out Hitler records and said at Sieg Heil in public, and was photographed saying Sieg Heil, and told people in documentaries that he admired Hitler and wants to be worshipped. And so because I don't admire Hitler, you see, I'm anti-Semitic. I mean, this is really what it is. This is the incredibleness of what we're talking about here, and just the magnitude.
It is an absolute fact that they're coming for all of us, okay? And I have just come to that realization, and I am so pissed at the filth that runs our government, and I'm even more pissed at the collaborators in our media and our military and our police forces and in the general population that can't see a total takeover when it's staring you in your eyeballs. It's not like it's some threat coming from 1,000 miles away. It's not like it's over the hill and around the dale. It's here.